To the fallout now from all of this legal drama that's going on. Former Deputy Assistant Attorney General and UC Berkeley law professor John Hugh joins me now. John, great to see you. Thank you for being here. Well, I want to begin with the Hunter Biden problem. It appears he's facing an indictment. We don't know all the details, but it does appear it's going to be on the gun-related charge. The question of why this happened so quickly and the entire investigation by David Weiss against Hunter took 5 years. Here's what Andy McCarthy, our colleague, said about the whole thing. He said David Weiss made the indictment announcement because he had no choice. He'd still love to bury the gun charge the same way he's buried the significant aspects of the probe he's been trusted with, namely the Biden family business of cashing in on Joe Biden's political influence. In other words, he's trying to bury that connection in investigating Hunter. Do you agree?
In a way, I think what you're seeing is the shortcomings of the investigation. I agree with Andy completely on that the financial investigation has been slow-walked and that it should be, in fact, accelerated. And the only reason we're seeing progress is because of the pressure by the House. The firearms charge is very simple. Hunter Biden lied on a form. He was caught. He wasn't supposed to have the guns. It's a straightforward case, easy to prove, could have been done years ago. So I worry that the Justice Department here is displaying the firearms charge to distract everybody from the really serious issue. The firearms charge in terms of the public interest is not that important. What's important is getting to the bottom of Hunter Biden's influencing or being influenced by foreign governments, the payments, whether he was trying to use his father's influence in politics and the economy to advantage foreign partners.
Yeah, well, there's no other explanation as to why he was getting so much money from these people. But, you know, the IRS, you have to look at it in context of the IRS whistleblowers who said every time they saw a road leading towards Joe Biden, they were waved off. They said, don't do it. That was what they were charging David Weiss. And that may be why it took 5 years to get to this gun charge, which, as you say, could have been decided years ago, in a couple of weeks. It was so obvious. Do you think all of this is kind of supporting what the IRS whistleblowers were saying, that in fact there was an attempt by David Weiss to ward off anybody from making that connection between Joe Biden and his son, what Joe Biden was doing as vice president and the business that Hunter was doing?
Any normal investigators would have run as fast as they could have to get their hands on the information here, and effectively David Weiss and his aides said, why did you take your time? Why don't you take a little stroll? Or why don't you just stop completely? The problem here, and the Justice Department has not got around this yet, the problem here is that you have a natural conflict of interest when the Justice Department, which works for Joe Biden, is investigating Hunter Biden and maybe even Joe Biden. The answer is to bring someone from the outside to become the special counsel, like Robert Mueller was brought in to investigate President Trump, not to give the power back to the same Justice Department attorney who caused the problems.
It's very strange. All right, let's switch to the Trump indictment down in Georgia. And everybody was saying, how could they, indict 19 people, have a trial with 19 people? It's going to be crazy. But it turns out that the grand jury was ready to indict 20 more people, including Lindsey Graham. And Lindsey Graham stood up for himself, obviously. And we heard the soundbite earlier of what he said. His response was he had a right to challenge an election. In fact, he said he had a duty to challenge an election. And that is not insurrection. That is not election interference. What do you think?
This shows how out of control the original investigation was by DA Fani Willis. Not only are they not paying attention to the right balance between the state governments and the federal government, they're ignoring the free speech and First Amendment protections for regular political activity. Look, here you've got a DA who's now trying to prosecute the head of the executive branch, the president. She's now thought about, maybe she still will, indict senators in the U.S. Congress. Maybe she's going to go after the U.S. Supreme Court next. Chief Justice John Roberts better lawyer up, because maybe
don't give her any
Willis
ideas,
like
John.
The Supreme Court's decisions.
Don't give her any ideas. All right. Very quickly, I want to get a final thought in on the 14th Amendment. A lot of people say that can be used to prevent Donald Trump from running for office because of what the 14th Amendment says about insurrection, and if you're an insurrectionist, et cetera. But remember, Donald Trump has not been indicted on insurrection. So is that charge kind of a phony charge?
Look, this is still part of the Constitution. The Constitution, the 14th Amendment, as you said, allows the disqualification of someone who participated in an insurrection. But it can't be anybody in the entire country can decide that and take it into their own hands. It's got to be, I think, a branch of the federal government. Now, look, Senate acquitted President Trump of insurrection, and the special counsel chose not to prosecute.
That's right. Yeah. So he wasn't. I mean, if Jack Smith had the evidence that he was guilty of insurrection, he would have been indicted for that. John, we got to leave it at that. We got 3 things in. Very good work. I appreciate you being here and doing it so concisely.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.